welcome back to another episode of Biohacking Beauty Podcast. I'm very excited that you chose to spend the next hour with us. My guest today is Dr. Scott Sherr, who is a board-certified internal medicine physician, and he's also certified to practice health optimization medicine as a specialist in hyperbaric therapy. He graduated summa cum laude from the UCLA University as an undergraduate and magna cum laude and alpha omega alpha distinction from the University of Maryland Medical School. Dr. Scott is the founder of Health Optimization Medicine SF, the first health optimization medicine clinic in the US, and is also the CEO of a health optimization medicine and practice here in the US, which is a nonprofit company pioneered by Dr. Ted Ashakoso, which we're going to be talking about him a little bit on the podcast. HOMeHOPe Essential Certification, plus 2 advanced modules on peptides and cannabis, teaching doctors and healthcare practitioners how to detect and correct the root causes of health, not disease. In addition, Dr. Scott is also COO of Smarter Not Harder, not-for-profit arm of HOMeHOPe. SNH is the company behind Troscription, which we're going to be talking a lot about today, a line of a book called Troches that are democratizing enlightenment, and we're going to be talking about that as well, by addressing the bottlenecks along the path to optimal health. They have 3 products on the market right now, which include Blue Canatine, Just Blue, and Trocon. Dr. Scott's clinical practice includes HOME as its foundation. HOME stands for, of course, health optimization. So it includes HOME as its foundation and plus an integrative approach to hyperbaric oxygen therapy that includes cutting-edge and dynamic hyperbaric oxygen therapy protocols, comprehensive laboratory testing, targeted supplementation, personal practices, synergistic technologies, new NHs, and more. He has also consulted on a number of wellness projects, including Bulletproof Labs, Remedy Place, LMS Wellness, Beyond Clinic, and many others. Dr. Scott lives in Louisville, Colorado, with his wife and his 4 children. Today we're gonna do a deep dive into the science behind, some of the biohacks that they are using in their practice. We're going to be learning about Troscription products and health optimization medicine as a whole. The 3 most intriguing maybe takeaways that we shared on the episode are a holistic approach to improve and to kind of optimize the person's health. We talked about obviously the connection between optimizing brain and stress and optimizing the way that our skin looks and function. But we also talked about maybe the pitfalls and what we should be looking out for as far as implementing biohacking in our daily routines in our life as a whole. Before we dive into today's episode, it would really mean the world to me and to us here at Young Goose if you took 2 seconds out of your day to subscribe to this podcast. Not only that it ensures that you will never miss on an episode, but it also greatly helps us to grow this podcast and helps more people to get the message. And the last thing before we start the podcast, I'd like to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by Young Goose, the biohacking skincare company. What we do is we make sure that your skin behaves like an optimally young, youthful skin. And that way, through optimizing the way that your skin functions, rebooting it to its younger state, we can affect how the skin looks like. And we provide the best results, we believe, in the skincare industry because of our approach. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Scott Sherr. So Scott, welcome to the Biohacking Beauty Podcast. I'm very, very, very excited to have you on. Obviously, we have become good friends, and I love what you guys are doing. So first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. It's a pleasure to be beautiful with you.
Yeah, and Scott, I met your company first, Troscriptions, in the Dave Asprey's conference, in the Bulletproof conference. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I've been following Troscription since, I don't know if you know, I was one of the first people who signed up to the newsletter before the product was even out. Remember when you were doing teasers with Tongues Half Blue and stuff?
That was all my copy for years. I was doing all the copy for Troscriptions, for the first year and a half. So you're reading my brain, trying to be funny.
Well, it got me. So it's very cool to kind of follow your company off the get-go. And I really think that you guys were one of the first people or the first companies that really committed to, being a player in that biohacking space before people were really convinced that it is here to stay, and that it is worth to be associated with it. Do you feel the same way?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, I think that I would say I think that for me, biohacking is a funny word because I mean, Dave Asprey, quote unquote, coined the term many years ago. At this point, calls himself the father of biohacking, and to some degree, he is the sort of the main first guys to talk about that word and performance. But like in essence, like I think about my father back in the 1980s, like as a chiropractor, using supplements and using diet and using different types of technology and different, like, so this stuff has all been happening for a long time. But I think the world of biohacking, the world of performance kind of all sort of culminated in like the late 2010s, like 2015, 16, 17. And a lot of different products were coming out and it's still happening like all the time, more and more products, more and more products. And I think what we were trying to do at Transcriptions was like, let's take a step back here, right? We're 4 physicians on our team. We're all in clinical practice. Like, what is biohacking really? And that is looking at optimizing performance. And we had a nonprofit company at the time, which we still do, called Health Optimization Medicine in Practice. This is a nonprofit company that was developed around Dr. Ted Atracoso's practice. So Dr. Ted he's got a lot of different titles, but he's an anti-aging physician, a neuroradiologist, like one of the smartest people in the world, like a really great guy. And he developed this practice that he honed in Manila, where he's from originally in the Philippines, over about 10 years. And he wanted to bring this practice to the US. And I just happened to meet him back in 2017. And when I met him and learned about what he was looking to do, but by creating this framework for other doctors and practitioners to learn how to practice like he did, I knew very quickly that this is something that was very aligned with what I felt was needed in medicine, which was a framework that was sort of preventative. It was actually your foundational, your bottom rung of your ladder, or like the base of your pyramid. We have acute care medicine, which is great. It does what it needs to do, but it doesn't really help people over the long term. You have preventative medicine, which is okay at preventing disease, but there's really nobody that was optimizing health. And so I got involved with Dr. Ted in this nonprofit. And as we were creating this nonprofit and educational course work for practitioners to learn, we knew from clinical practice that like there was a lot of people that needed help now. It was something that they needed things that could help them right now, as opposed to optimizing their health, which takes time. And so we created a company called Smarter Not Harder, which is a great name for a lot of different reasons, but Smarter Not Harder as the umbrella company. And our first brand underneath that is called Transcriptions. And the Transcriptions brand was built to be as a part of this ecosystem, not as just another product to make your brain feel better, or not a product to help you sleep better. But it was more in the framework that we're using these products, hopefully in the context of you looking at optimizing your health and the framework that we use. So I feel like biohacking is like, look at the new squirrel, look at the new technology, look at the new practice, but like, what's your framework, right? And so that's what health optimization medicine is trying to provide. And then we have these products that fit into that framework and give people an idea as to what they can do to optimize their brain function right now, optimize their mitochondrial health, and do things in a way that I think is more robust over the long term, rather than just the shiny new pill that somebody's carrying around at the biohacking conference for you to try, kind of thing.
So how does that? So you started with Transcription as kind of the canary in the coal mine of your Smarter Not Harder, and
Yeah.
And was the reason? So what was the idea behind it? Was the first product you wanted to come out with the Methylene Blue nootropic product?
Yeah. So Dr. Ted is also like, I would call like an OG biohacker. Before the term, he's a guy that would be on a plane every 2 to 3 weeks, flying from Manila to Europe to the US, congressmen, senators, movie stars, people that he would, if he told us their names, we'd have to be shot someplace, kind of thing. So anyway, so as a result of that kind of clientele, he always needed to be on no matter where he was. So he was playing around with Methylene Blue for a long time. And he was playing around with nicotine, which is also in blue cannatine, our first nootropic that came out. And he realized that this was a fantastic combination for him. If he did a combination of Methylene Blue, nicotine, caffeine, and CBD. If he did it low dose for each of these products, each of these ingredients, it was extremely synergistic. So he would get locked in into flow for 3 to 5 hours of focus, productivity, verbal fluidity, all of that would just go. And so it didn't matter how much sleep he had. I mean, of course, he was optimizing himself otherwise, right? So that's what we always talk about. But that's how it all came about, is that he was playing around with this formula. Initially, it started off as a gum, actually, that you would chew. But the problem with that was that it made your whole mouth blue rather than just a part of your mouth. And the other part of it is that we couldn't get any gum manufacturers to actually make it. And so because there's 4 of us on the team that are clinicians, we knew about troches, this delivery device that we have, let's call the buccal troche. It's a lozenge, basically, that dissolves between your cheek and your teeth on your upper cheek, or on either the right or your left side, and it dissolves there over about 15 to 30 minutes. And the nice thing about the buccal troche was that because it's dissolving in your mouth into the cheek, it's actually dissolving directly into the bloodstream that's around your brain. So you're going to get a feeling in your brain. It's going to start affecting your brain chemistry very fast within that 15 to 30 minutes. The other thing that's nice about it is that when you're letting it dissolve in your mouth, inside your cheek mucosa here, you're also what's called bypassing first pass metabolism. The idea here is that most things that we digest, supplements, foods, capsules, they all have to be digested by your stomach and by your small intestine, and then be processed by your liver. And that what's ever left after that is called your bioavailability. How much is actually left that's actually functioning of that particular compound. I like to give the example, like a good supplement example is if you take a NAC pill, NAC, for example, and you swallow that, only 10% of that is actually bioavailable. So only 10% of that is actually an active ingredient. But because we're keeping things in a troche form, significantly higher amounts are bioavailable. So you have the increased bioavailability, you have the increased absorption into the brain circulation, and so we decided on the buccal troche, and then our first product was blue cannatine as our initial foray into the world of biohacking. But again, it was in the sense of like looking at it in the framework that we do, which is like use this, optimize your performance, but also think about optimizing your health at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, that's what this podcast is about, really, because again, it's called Biohacking Beauty, but you wouldn't hear us regularly talking about our creams or, what would help, especially like wrinkles around your eyes, right? Because
Sure.
what we're really trying to do is educate to overall health, and then looking at whatever, an eye cream, it's going to be a much easier transition to have something work if your body is optimized to make it work, right? And vice versa. If you're going to use the best product in the world, but your body has no idea even how to repair itself, you can ask the body to do whatever, then it's not going to do it well. It's pretty much redundant, and you're throwing money down the toilet. So for sure. And by the way, same thing about what we really, really what our hero molecule is. The entire premise of our first product, which was an NAD, that precursors that absorb directly in the skin. That
Right.
was part of the problem with supplementation, right? That's 95% stays in the liver, and 5% just disperses throughout your body. So for sure, we're aligned there.
And
And
bioavailability in the skin is huge. Like dermal delivery is a really big one, along with mucosal. So people don't realize that when you go through the liver, about 80 to 90% of products that you take are going to be less bioavailable because they get processed. And the other 20%, 10% will be more active, and about 10% will be about staying the same. So most of the things, and this is, your liver does this on purpose, right? It's trying to process, and this is what its job is. So absolutely. And when you're talking about bioavailability, it's extremely important to think about. I mean, there are different types of products that are highly bioavailable through the liver, and there's others that are not, right? And so, like you mentioned, NAD isn't, nor is NAC for NAC, but something like methylene blue actually is. So there is opportunities to use methylene blue in a lot of different ways, not even just in a buccal troche, but actually swallowing it too. And so we talk about that in some of our other products as well. So
yeah, so blue cannatine is kind of the product that made you famous, right? That really made kind of a cult following around you, and delivered results that are pretty easy to also covet, but also pretty easy to experience. It was a kind of right away experience. And
yeah,
I the next product that I tried from you guys was already the Trocom, the product that is a newer product from you guys. I did not try the only Methylene Blue based product that you have.
Right, called Just Blue. Yeah.
Just Blue, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a completely different experience for me as far as the effects. I obviously the effects that I wanted to achieve, but also the overall body effects that I had, which was an incredible product. So how did you get from optimizing brain function to basically creating a product that has a lot of rivals in the market? Obviously it's a hot topic, but it's a pretty big leap towards the other side, right?
Well, I mean, I think for us, it all comes in under the same framework in the sense that we're trying to optimize health. In the framework we use is health optimization, medicine, and practice. And then one of the bottlenecks that all of us face along the way at some point is anxiousness, stress, tension. So not only do you want to perform better, you want to have optimal performance of your brain, verbal fluency, your memory is great, your diction is fantastic, you're doing what you want to do in this, what is the word used, like you're showing up in the world or something ridiculous like that. But people use that term. But you also want to be able to like unwind, right? The problem with the world as it is now is that it's very difficult to unwind because we're always on. We're on podcasts, we're on our email, we're on text, we're talking to our kids, we're getting jumped on by my kids. That's my common understanding at my house here. But they sometimes interrupt during podcasts, but they won't happen today. They're not here. But you get all this sort of, stimulation, right? If we lived, 2000 years ago, we would be accessing so much less information. We'd be more, we'd have stress, but then we would have times to just relax. And so we use this product. We actually developed this product. It's called Trocom, like you said, to help you wind down, to take that edge off if you want just a little bit, or you really want to relax and really wind down before bed and turn off some of those ruminating or those perseverating thoughts that people get before they go to bed and have a hard time going to sleep. The idea with all of our troches, Amite, is that they're titratable. So they come in a lozenge, this buccal troche, also called the buccal lozenge, and they're scored, which means they can be broken up into 1/4 components, 1/4 pieces. And so all of the troches are done in a manufacturing facility that's GMP, that's as pharmaceutical grade as you can get without being a pharmaceutical, basically. And so that that each of the little 1/4 squares that you're getting in the lozenge are the same amount each. This is not the same as a lot of other products on the market, let me tell you. And so especially food grade kind of products.
Yeah, especially for sure. Even CBD, which you do have products, that's a pretty big worry for me and for anyone else that takes a lot of CBD. You kind of never know really how much you're getting if you're getting it.
Yeah, especially in like the droppers and things like that. It's just not exact. And so as clinicians, we wanted to make sure we could make exact products so that we could give them to our patients and our clients. And I use Blue Carnitine, I use Just Blue, and I use Trocom with all of my clients these days. And Trocom is probably the most profound in a lot of ways because people have such a hard time relaxing now. And so, the way it works is that 1/4 of a troche typically is a way you can kind of just take the edge off a little bit. And oftentimes when we're so stressed, our frontal lobe, our frontal cortex shuts off and we stop getting blood flow there because we're constricting down actually. And that's why it's like that deer in the headlights kind of thing when you're having dreams about being naked in front of an audience or something and like you don't say anything, you forgot all your lines. That's when your frontal lobe, your frontal cortex shuts off. So if you can just take that down just a little bit, you then get that relaxation just enough so that your brain starts turning on back again, so that it's actually kind of a biohacking device, if you want to think about it, for your brain in that capacity, in the sense that you're going to perform better. You might think better, speak better, remember your lines better because you're just not as stressed, for example. But if you increase the dosing, you become more relaxed, less focused, and it's like the unwinding aspects of the product, right? And that's really helps with de-stressing, relaxation, calming, and most people will reach for something that isn't as healthy to help calm themselves down. I mean, the most common thing, I can't believe it's still legal, is alcohol. I mean, compared to other drugs like that are in our products, because alcohol does help. It does relax you. It actually works on some of the same receptors as we have in our product, which I can talk about. But the idea, though, is that alcohol, as we all know, and most of us know now, it completely screws up your sleep. It's addictive, and it shrinks your brain, right? So these are not things that we want. Even they just came out with a study that even 1 to 2 glasses a night is a potential way that your brain shrinks over time compared to people that don't drink. And so, the ingredients in our product, I think, modulate similar receptors or help with in various ways to help calm you down without any challenges of dependence, tolerance, brain shrinkage, any other shrinkage as far as we're aware. So, or anything like that. So,
I like the hinting in your messaging about better performance in the bedroom without
from the
without with
boardroom to the bedroom, my friend. That is my
exactly.
line. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then and then you're
Well,
making
do you know what this is important? Do you know what helps with an erection is actually being parasympathetic? You actually need to be calm. If anybody has tried to get an erection when they're really stressed, it's not easy to do. I mean, the guys will know that are listening to this. It's called performance anxiety, guys. Come on. So, and so what can you do? You need to relax, right? And so that's why we call it, for like performance edge from the bedroom, from the boardroom to the bedroom in that capacity.
I understand. So yeah, before we get to the function, before we get to the maybe how we use it exactly, because we're by saying from the boardroom to the bedroom, I think there are some questions that beg to be asked there as far as like timing and stuff like that. Let's really talk for a second about function in the way that it functions from the time when it's ingested and not really ingested,
Sure.
placed between the gum and the cheek, and what happens since then. And if you could maybe compare it to what happens with bluecanatine or just blue, that would be very interesting to understand how these compounds work in the brain and what
Sure.
they act.
Yeah. So Churcom has 4 active ingredients, 4 main ingredients. The first one is Kava. And so Kava is pretty well known. It's South Pacific island based. It's a plant that is very well known to increase GABA tone in the brain. So increasing the amount of GABA that's available in your brain. And GABA is a neurotransmitter in your brain that's responsible for calming neuron firing and relaxing your brain function. So the more GABA you have, the more relaxed you are, the more parasympathetic and rest digest nervous system you are. And then in addition to Kava, we also have CBD and CBG. So these are cannabinoids. Everybody knows about CBD these days. These are non-psychoactive cannabinoids. CBD has a lot of different ways it works. It works on these receptors in the brain called CBD1 and CBD2 receptors. And it actually prevents the breakdown of a specific type of neurotransmitter called anandamide. Ananda in Sanskrit means bliss. And we think of this as the bliss neurotransmitter. It's funny, I would say, we used to think that the runner's high, for example, runner's high we thought was endorphins. There may be a part of that that's endorphins, but actually the majority of that is probably modulated by anandamide and the endocannabinoid system, the system in our body that is set up to give us these neurotransmitters and other neurohormones that give us bliss and that protect us and decrease inflammation and modulate our immune system. We just happen to have these exogenous, these plants, these other compounds outside of our body that we can use that can modulate the system. And so CBD is one of them. And then CBG, cannabigerol, is a lesser known cannabinoid. It's actually called the mother of all cannabinoids because it actually is the plant actually makes CBG first, and then it starts making all the other cannabinoids afterwards. So CBG is interesting. It's an immune system modulator. It's a temperature modulator. And it's also working on the CBD1 and CBD2 receptors as well. So it's some interesting things on CBG with pain and temperature control, which is very interesting as well. And so we use that in combination. There seems to be a synergistic approach using that to help relax along with the CBD. And then our final ingredient is something called N-Nicotynol GABA. This is a very blood-brain barrier permeable type of GABA. So this is directly GABA going into your brain. And the thing about GABA supplements, this goes back to our bioavailability chat a couple minutes ago, is that when you take an oral GABA supplement, there's very little of that gets across the blood-brain barrier, like almost nothing. And so it's almost like pissing in the wind kind of thing. It's like there's nothing that's getting in. So the only way GABA gets in is if it's attached to something that's blood-brain barrier permeable. So what we use is something called the vitamin B3 attached, which is a nicotynol group, and that gets across the blood-brain barrier. So all very low dose, all synergizing together to relax your brain using the GABAergic system mostly, and then along with the cannabinoids, endocannabinoid system together to help you wind down, help you relax, help you just calm your body's nervous system, and become more parasympathetic. What's interesting to compare this to our other products is our other products are based on Methylene Blue. Methylene Blue initially was a dye, and then it became a pharmaceutical treated as an antibacterial, antifungal. It was a treatment for urinary tract infections at higher doses before antibiotics were around. And it wasn't until the 1950s that we realized that it was there was something going on in the mitochondria with Methylene Blue. And then it wasn't until like the early 2000s that we realized that it was a fantastic mitochondrial enhancer. So it supports the mitochondria, helping the mitochondria make more energy. And it does it at the same time as being an antioxidant. So it also becomes protective for your mitochondria when you're making energy at the same time. So, yeah.
Normally compounds that I hear those two things together, like being an antioxidant and being a mitochondrial stimulant or enhancer or whatever, that normally it normally is a reaction to a stress that is happening to the mitochondria, right? Whether it's like obviously we use resveratrol, or the way that metformin. Not that I'm supporting metformin for anti-aging, actually, but metformin is a longevity molecule, or we can go on and on, like
sure, there's lots of different ways to create mitochondrial stress. Yeah.
So is that the way that it is enhancing mitochondrial function?
No. So it's not creating mitochondrial stress. It's actually just supporting mitochondrial function in a couple different ways. It's actually enhancing the efficiency of one of your cytochromes. It's cytochrome oxidase. It's complex 4 of your mitochondria. Yeah. So it's enhancing the efficiency of that particular complex. It's also acting as an electron acceptor. So just like oxygen accepts an electron, Methylene Blue can accept an electron as well. So whether there is the presence of oxygen or the lack thereof or less of, Methylene Blue will act as an energy enhancer, because you continue to make energy as you still have an electron acceptor there, your Methylene Blue in this case, to continue to make ATP on your electron transport chain. And at the same time, what Methylene Blue is also doing is actually it's helping change the conformation of oxygen on the hemoglobin molecule itself, so that's where it's carried typically, so that you have more of the oxygen that's getting dumped into tissue as well. So it's helping with being there more substrate, being there more electron acceptor, so that you can continue to make energy in the cells that are getting this additional oxygen. At the same time, go ahead.
So my question is two things, actually. One is, and I really want you to go back to what you were explaining, but two things. One is that it seems to me like it would enhance what I care about, which is my aerobic and anaerobic capability, or my ability to create ATP under stress, or whatever you want to call that, or the cost of making ATP. So when I take it before I do jujitsu or any strenuous activity, would that improve the way that I utilize oxygen and then be able to produce energy?
So there haven't been a lot of studies on this, interestingly enough, but we've been using it with some athletes internally, and then some of my clients outside of in my clinical practice. And I have noticed with them that their performance times do get better. And I think what's likely happening is that it's both things that are happening, right? You have the ability to continue to make more energy under lower oxygen conditions, and also the ability to dump more oxygen and get more oxygen to the tissue, because you're changing the conformation at the same time. Yeah. And you're also increasing, what I forgot also to mention is that you're also increasing the amount of NAD plus available at the cellular level at the same time, which I know you guys are a big fan of, as well as in the work that you do. So synergistic in lots of ways, in the sense of, like, this is not NAD plus itself, but it's going to help produce more NAD plus, so help get that NADH off, the H off, and get more NAD plus as the pull in your mitochondria at the same time. And then it also acts as an antioxidant at the same time as well, so that even though if you're making more energy, you're also making more reactive oxygen species. So it's really important that you're able to neutralize those and not have those hang out for too long as well, because that's what causes rust in the system.
So that was my second question. That's an incredible mechanism or couple mechanisms, because we actually made a product that is a reactive oxygen species or a specific type of oxygen stress scavenger. We make it out of green tea, and that's to improve EGCG. So that's to improve the effects of red light therapy. So I'm wondering if there is any information on enhancing or blunting the decline in reaction to red light therapy or improving red light therapy with methylene blue or anything like that. That I think it's super interesting.
Yeah. So at least from the experiences of people inside our company, and then a lot of the earlier biohacking testers, there definitely seems to be a synergistic response where if people have methylene blue, they get out in sunlight or they use red light, there is a significant enhancement in the effect. They're cognitively more enhanced. They feel more energetic. They have just more focus. And this is even without the blue carotene, which has the caffeine and nicotine in it. We're just talking about methylene blue by itself. So I think there's something to it. I mean, I have some ideas of what the mechanism might be. We think it's something having to do with the blue pigment itself and how that's interacting with your cytochromes, actually, and how methylene blue is also interacting with the same cytochrome. And there may be something going on with copper. We're not really sure, but it certainly seems to be, there's something synergistic there, no doubt about it. We're just not exactly sure what it is.
Well, it's very interesting, very, very interesting. And I'm sure it's going to be a big eureka moment for a lot of people because a lot of people are not getting the results they want for red light therapy. And most of the reasons are like oxidative stress. Their mitochondria is already basically stressed out to begin with, and you're kind of adding more stress to stress that's already there. So that's not positive. But I think if I'm going to try it in combination, see how it goes. I'm going to let you know. It seems like a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning of the pandemic, there was some interesting studies that looked at methylene blue in combination with a certain spectrum of light, UVC, as a way to kill coronaviruses. This is right before the pandemic. And so there has been interest throughout the pandemic as well on how methylene blue might be able to support mitochondrial function, potentially be an antiviral as well at higher doses, not doses that we have in our product. But there are groups of people that are using IV methylene blue now, for example, and doing it that way in combination with other things, including red light as well. So just some other things that are happening. I think that there is some definite synergy there.
Amazing. Yeah, I know a group in Sedona that actually does the IVs plus red light therapy. So very interesting. So
I probably know the same group. Yes.
So that's wonderful. So going back to different mechanisms, and
Sure.
I really want to get into the kind of nitty gritty of how do we improve our performance and when. So we're talking about basically methylene blue based products, and then the N-Nicotynol GABA based product, if you would, or the Trocom basically, which is way more than that. And ways that they affect the function of our system. So when would be, let's say I'm a highly motivated person. I want to make sure I perform optimally. How does my day-to-day using those products look like? When would I be using one or not the other, or both? Because it seems to me maybe you could be using both together.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I think of this in a lot of different contexts. The main one I've been really kind of very confident lately about is that methylene blue itself is something that people can take regularly. I think it's something that helps support mitochondria. I think it helps support the system and energy production. There's also some neurotransmitter release related to methylene blue, so it helps with serotonin and dopamine release as well. So there's some just like good mood chemicals a little bit there, not a huge amount, but a little bit. And so I think for most people, as like a daily health optimization protocol, like using methylene blue regularly is likely a good idea in the world that we live in now, of course. I mean, and so I think of that as more of like our daily kind of solution, but at the same time, for like a nightly solution or like multiple times during the week when you're having to wind down and you're looking for good alternatives as opposed to using alcohol or other kinds of drugs or even some prescription kind of things to use. And this might be a way to chill out, relax, have fun with friends, have fun with your family, roll around on the floor with your kids, and just be able to take that stress level down using something like Trocom. And I find that Trocom in like across the board, really, like just to relax and unwind is a fantastic compound. And for the people that have a difficult time sleeping, especially those that have a lot of those perseverating, ruminating kinds of thoughts, like they try to go to bed, but they just like their mind keeps racing. This is a great way to just shut those off. And so what you need to do typically with Trocom is take about 30 minutes or an hour before you would be going to bed in this case. And then it would fully dissolve. And then you'd have this smooth rise of just relaxation or calm, smooth, not really like a rise, but smooth, downtrend of relaxation. Precipitate. I like to go down and relax, right? And that's how I will use it. For example, if it's been a busy day, I'll use Trocom to help unwind with the other things that I do. Of course, none of these things take the place of having good sleep hygiene as best you can. But if you're in a hotel and you're traveling or whatever, you're staying with your parents in your old bed that you haven't stayed in since you were a kid or whatever. Like there's lots of examples. I'm not giving any personal ones, I promise. But like then you use some Trocom to calm down, right? So like because you don't have all your biohacking devices, you don't have your whatever it is that you use every night. For me, I have lots, but I go into my hyperbaric chamber, I go into my sauna, I do stretching, but I'm spoiled, and that's not how things work on a day-to-day basis when I'm traveling. So but Trocom's great for those days when you're not like when you're having a really difficult day, it's a really stressful day, you just want to wind down. And that's why we say boardroom to the bedroom, because it's like you can just take a little bit and just perform better, or you can take more. You can be more present with your kids because you're not anxious thinking about all the things you need to do at work and all the relationships that you are trying to navigate with remote work all the time and whatever it might be, right? And then you can relax and you can be a better spouse, you can be a better partner, better dad, better mom, in the sense you just take it down a notch, right? But then in the evenings you can take it down even further and wind yourself down for bed. And there have been reports and with many now of our users that it increases deep sleep as well for people that are using Trocom before bed. And I think it's because it's just letting you wind down faster so you can just like drop into your deep sleep, which you mostly get in the beginning of your night for the most part for us that are not, children at this point. So that's what I think of as sort of your AM PM solution is your methylene blue in the morning and then your Trocom at night for the most part. There actually are some interesting reports of people using methylene blue before they go to bed and having improved REM sleep for that, which is interesting. I think that's because it's giving you some mitochondrial support during REM sleep, which is highly metabolic, which is interesting, right? And then for your targeted get shit done, want to just be in flow for 3 to 5 hours, that's when you take something like blue carnitine, which is our nicotine, caffeine, methylene blue combo, because that's when you can really get shit done and be productive. And that's not something you take every day, but it's something you take when you need to, get to show up, to get shit done and to win. I'm using funny analogies. I'm thinking of Charlie Sheen and winning right now, but no cocaine, please, fellas, no cocaine.
That's exactly the case. A little bit of Charlie Sheen is good. It's exactly.
Hold a couple things.
A
Hold
lot
the
of
cocaine.
Charlie Sheen, not so good. Anyway, So that's very, very, very enlightening. And as far as we give the example, I actually give it a lot in other podcasts when I get to fool people that I know something.
Yes.
I really explain the way. I really like to explain that kids, they do not grow in height linearly. It's not like if you measure, and they measured kids how they grow, and they don't grow every night by an increment of an inch, and then that's how you get a 6'2" human being in the end. They actually grow in spurts. So they measured them. They almost don't grow for a few days, 4 or 5 days. Boom, then you have a growth spurt, and that's kind of that undulating growth, route. And funny enough, that's also the way that we age, right? We don't age linearly. It's not like every day
Right.
we lose some of our youth. And obviously, my favorite example, U.S. presidents and the way that they don't sleep and have a lot of stress for 4 to 8 years, and they look like they were on the moon or something like that. They look terrible.
Yeah.
Uh, and that is very, very, very true as far as you said about all those biohacking things that you are privileged to have and use on a day-to-day basis. But again, that's you're only optimizing your health to those days where you're not going to have judgment days, right? When you're not going to have something, you're not going to have your equipment, you're going to have a very stressful day, and all of those things accumulate, and then you basically experienced accelerated aging. And
Right.
I think if we keep if we have more and more reservoirs of things that we can do in order to mitigate that, that is when we can really stave off aging as much as possible. Especially when we talk about these two core tenets, which is stress mitigation and optimization of sleep. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm 100% on board with that. It's a great analogy of how aging works and how you see it. And I see it in my kids all the time. It's what's really interesting about kids. I'll figure out how to dove this tail in, but is that you actually find when they're not doing well, like in the sense that like they have a viral infection or they have something stressful happen and then they actually clear that stress. That's when they have this huge growth spurt, like in the sense that they all of a sudden have just like this huge change. And like, so oftentimes, I mean, I think maybe the way this works is the body does have to go through stress, right? We have to continue to stress it and it has to continue to have the stimulus to optimize itself, right? So like, that's why if you sit on the couch all the time and you don't work your muscles, like you're not going to feel well, you're not going to be resilient, et cetera. So I think what's happening in the world of the biohacking optimal performance space is that we know that there needs to be stress but we know that we also at the same time need to enhance our mitochondrial function and optimize that over time, because even though they make amazing amounts of energy, they're also one of the reasons why our body ages, because we have to make so much energy at all times. I was reading the other day, I think we're making like 1 billion mitochondria every second or something crazy like that. So you think about, I mean, that's a huge amount of energy that we're making at all times. And then we're recycling all these mitochondria. So we have to support them. We have to give it what it needs. And that's why our framework, the health optimization medicine framework in the nonprofit, is so important, that you can actually measure what you need and what you're deficient and toxic in and optimize at those levels. But then you take additional products and things and you bring them into the fore when you need them and when you know that you need the additional support. And as we age, the truth of the matter is that it's very difficult to get away with not using additional support, no matter how healthy, no matter how artisan, no matter how much you live on a farm or whatever, right? We know that like nutrient content of the food that we're eating now in the plants that we're eating is about like 30 to 40% what it was in the 1950s. And then if you talk about the animals still have higher bioavailability as far as the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals you can get from them, but still even them, the nutrient density is down significantly. So if you want to age, but not age in appearance and your physiology, you really need to be thinking about what additional things that you're going to use, tools, technologies, supplements, dietary changes that you're going to use to try to keep optimizing yourself so that you stay in that healthy sort of age range from a biochemical perspective. And that's kind of what we're doing on the health optimization side. We're optimizing people to the age of about 21 to 30 years of age, shifting their nutrient levels there, shifting their hormones level there, and then using these products, Trocom, Methylene Blue, skin products as well, and others to help with, optimizing the skin age, optimizing the, your gut, optimizing your mitochondria, your liver, all these things. So like it's a full holistic kind of idea, but these products fit right in there very nicely in that context. That's how I always like to talk about it.
What are some of that's a first of all, very, very interesting concept, if I would, just basically like looking at, well, that's not a new concept in medicine, right? Most of the things that we look at as far as like things that are going to predict if you're going to have a specific disease, if you're going to have a specific malady, they look at things that are correlated with that dysfunction, right? They don't look at things that necessarily lead to that. For example, high cholesterol or you can give many examples of that. But we're really looking at markers that are associated with a specific rise of specific markers are associated with different illnesses. And it's you basically flip it on its head and say, okay, how does a makeup of a 21 to 30-year-old person look like as far as their nutrient levels, blood serum levels of certain things, and the way that their epigenetics are arranged and expressed, and say, okay, we can definitely change that, and therefore affect in the end how the body functions. So what are some of your favorite things from a holistic perspective to be looking at and to adjust and to affect?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, what I would usually start with is the framework that we use in health optimization medicine, which is something called metabolomics. It's a big word, but this basically means that we can measure what's happening in real time in your cellular machinery right now. And we can do that using robust testing that's been around for about 20, almost 30 years now, but it's just starting to hit clinical practice now. And of course, you can wait another 10 or 15 years until primary care doctors are using it, or you can start using it to optimize your health, which is what we're doing now. And so you can measure metabolites, which are these breakdown products of these various nutrients that we have. There's what are called endogenous and exogenous metabolites. These are things that come from outside of our body, and then things that come from inside of our body. And we have ones that are happening to help us make energy, ones that help us make hormones, have ones that help us that are related to the bacteria, fungus, and viruses that are in our body as well. And there's also ones that we can measure from perfumes and makeups and all the other chemicals that we're surrounding ourselves and drinking, like the water that we're drinking and the food that we're eating and the pesticides. And you can measure metabolites of all these things in the metabolomic testing that we do, that's what it's called. And you can then start looking at how you optimize, balance, detoxify using that data. So if I have the option with my own clients, that's what I'd like to do. I usually like to bring them into the framework, optimize their health using this metabolomic testing, and then surrounding that metabolomic testing for your gut, your immune system, your hormones, your energy production, your exposures, and things like that. We're talking about looking at the various aspects of your diet, your lifestyle, your supplements, and other biohacking technologies and other tools along the way. So, I mean, where all of it kind of comes together is that I make a health optimization plan for my clients, and then I will have them add on additional things that I think will help support. So things that you can't measure, things like resveratrol, for example, like you mentioned, is great, like an epigenetic enhancer, or some of the, or using something like Methylene Blue, for example. These are just giving you big strokes here, but that's the idea.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I'm sure when someone comes to you, they're saying, I am a 45-year-old person, and what I'm interested in is playing better, pickleball or whatever people like doing now, right? Spike ball or whatever is hot right now. But
if you're in Austin, Texas, it's spike ball. That's what I hear.
Exactly. That's what I heard. Or I want to look better. I want to perform better in my high stressful environment, whatever that is. But what I hear from what you're saying is, first, I want to make them function better as a human being, and that's kind of an upstream more effect that I can as you said, kind of broad stroke effect that I can inflict on the entire system. And then whatever they want to do with that better optimized machinery, that's on them. Anything's going to work better. So when does it change to the individual saying, oh, you actually want to perform better in the boardroom or the bedroom or the gym or whatever? When does it become more granular? Does it ever become more granular?
I think it could start off from the beginning, really, because people have these initial goals when they come see me. And I know that when people have these goals when they're looking for products like ours. And I think it's not mutually exclusive in the sense that you can, if you want, just take Methylene Blue and see how you feel. Just take Trocom and see how you feel and see how it affects your stress levels and how calm you are. But my hope, and I guess our hope as a company, is that it becomes a gateway into wanting to understand more and how you can optimize your health. From my perspective in my clinical practice, what I usually will do is work on optimizing health and give these things at the same time so that people have immediate results and immediate effects on their physiology, and they can see that shift. They can see their anxiety go down. They can see their stress come down. They can see that they're having better relationship with their kids. They're sleeping better, and that they feel like they have more energy throughout the day. And at the same time as using Trocom or Just Blue or even Blue Canatine, I'm also looking to optimize their vitamins, their minerals, their antioxidant status. And that's ideal. But my sense of it is that for most people, it's kind of like the gateway, right? Because people like easy things to take, and Trocom is very easy to take. You just put it in your mouth, let it dissolve, you feel good, right? So like I have no problem with that because I know that we need to give people that opportunity. And when they feel better, they are better people. And that hopefully that will reflect not only on their own drive to get themselves better, but from their dynamics and their relationships and their families and things like that too.
Yeah, actually, that's very smart, because if we're just going to give people a bunch of like health optimizing, compound that are going to be cumulative in the long run, but in a short run, you're not going to really feel anything for it. You're going to take, NAD supplements. Good luck feeling anything in the next few years.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I really like that approach, and especially when we talk about stress reduction, because so many things are controlled by the levels of cortisol or stress that run throughout our body.
Your skin especially.
Exactly. When we talk about the skin, it's pretty simple to explain, right? It's not only about we don't make enough, or we don't extract enough nutrients from our foods, or we deplete the reservoirs of stem cells that we have to repair our skin and to create new cells. We do not detoxify as well because our lymphatic system isn't working as well. Like, the skin is pretty easy to explain and easy to see. It's pretty intuitive, but a lot of those systems that are in the end are going to be expressed in better appearance, for example, they deteriorate and we don't even know until it's too late. And they are all subjective to stress. Even our, something that's becoming more and more popular to talk about right now, like our fascia, how it stores stress and kind of morphs according to stored stress, is something that I think people are not going to address until it's too late, like 99% of the time.
That's just the nature of the game, being the human organism. We don't tend to be the type that looks ahead. We look more in the rearview mirror. And yeah, it's one of the things that we talk about a lot in health optimization medicine, is that you don't let health be in the rearview mirror kind of thing. And the idea with testing a lot of these kinds of metabolomic markers is that you can find things early and you can optimize. And so you don't get to the manifestation point where you have an actual illness or condition, because you've addressed it early enough in that process so that you can break that cycle. So I wish more US Americans, I mean, worldwide, really, it's not just the US is an issue. We all want that sort of instant gratification, but we have a very hard time maintaining on something that we don't feel, right? So the idea, I think, for a lot of companies, ours, yours, and others, is that how can we make you feel good now, but also work with you over the long term to help you understand what's going to be really great and supportive and longevity inducing or optimal health inducing at the same time. So that's what Transcriptions is all about. I mean, we call it the cheat codes for enlightenment, democratizing enlightenment. We talk about how we're trying to give you ways to address the various things that litter your path on the way to optimizing your health. That's really what our mission is. And so all these products are these little but very, very impactful and very powerful ways of seeing these shifts very quickly with your anxiousness, with your stress levels, with your brain function, with your productivity. So that's really what we're trying to provide. And I think we do a pretty good job of it, with more products along the way. But we like to give people the education, like this is why this is important, right? This is like stress. How is it affecting you? Like, just like you said, Amite, it's affecting your skin. It's affecting your complexion. It's affecting, your mental clarity. It's affecting your performance in the bedroom, right? It's performing all these kinds of things, or affecting all these things. So we try to give the education there, because the mental health space it's just growing dramatically, unfortunately, and not in good ways. I mean, we're just getting more anxious, using more prescription drugs, using more antidepressants. And during the pandemic, it's just been skyrocketing. And I've seen this in my own clinical practice. I mean, even when I got out of medical school and I was out of residency in my first year, I did like regular primary care medicine in a conventional setting, and I couldn't tolerate it very much. 90, I think I'm 70% of the people that I saw, they were coming in for stress and anxiety. And the doctor that I was working with would prescribe them antidepressants because he didn't want to give them anxiety medicine because the anxiety medicines are addicting and very difficult to come off of and highly regulated. And so if we, yeah, very scared to come off. You can die if you come off of your anxiety medicines, or if you stop alcohol abruptly, like you can die from these kinds of things. And so they have to be done very methodically. So giving doctors and practitioners alternatives, which is what we're doing here, and also consumers alternatives for what they're looking for and what they can access without having the potential downsides, is really what my goal and our goal as a company was as doctors. We really wanted to give different opportunities, different ways of approaching this without the potential downsides that there are so many of.
And that's why, that's one of the reasons we, in Young Goose, we really, really like Transcriptions as a company, and you guys, the people behind that, because it's very, there's a reason we like to use the word biohacking, whether we like it or not. It's an easy word to use. There's a reason it's easy to use catchy phrases like keto, paleo, whatever that is. It's because it's almost like if something has passed the test to be allowed to be called fill in the blank, we feel it's safe to use it or whatever. But unfortunately, the minute that there is like a financial interest involved, it's really maybe the case is opposite, right? You're just trying to attach yourself to whatever in order for consumers to be able to, feel comfortable using your products. And obviously, in a space that is growing so rapidly and so sporadically, such as biohacking, which really can encompass anything that would allow us to complete a goal at a faster pace. Really, that's anything that does that should be considered a biohacking modality. It is very, very important for us, especially as kind of we consider ourselves part of that community, to trying to steer people who listen to what we're saying, steer them in the right direction. And if we can, steer them into a right direction as far as a blanket, saying, okay, look at this company. They have their morals at place, and not only morals, because morals is one side of the equation, but another is like the know-how, right? Because we say in Hebrew that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So,
of course, yes, I know the expression. Yes.
So it's important, obviously, to have both the yin and the yang of that, the knowledge and the know-how and the want to.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, I think for us, we wanted to make a company that was physician formulated, pharmaceutical grade, precision dose products that we would feel comfortable using in clinical practice. That's why we use GMP manufacturer. We use a compounding pharmacist that has 30 years experience. Like, we do quality control on everything. We test everything, not only from the manufacturers, the ingredients that we get, but also test them again to make sure they have purity and potency before we put them in our products. Like, that's why on those initial emails, to completely round this out, I mean, like in those beginning emails, like I thought we were going to release this product sometime in 2019, our first one, but it didn't end up happening until February 2020 because it took all this effort to find the right ingredients and the right partners to make the products that we wanted to make. And so we had so much pent up demand when we first launched in February 2020 for that reason. And we were very intentional about coming out with products, and we still are, that you can't find anything as close to prescription grade as that we make, on our products, because unless it's prescription, right? So, again, so that's really what our ethos has been. And we love working with companies and collaborating with companies in the space that are doing similar kinds of things, right? And you're right, it's difficult to navigate as consumers, but it's not that difficult. It's really just take a look at what they're doing, take a look at their products, how they're testing everything. I think the testing is a big thing for a lot of companies, is that like a lot of companies won't be doing third-party testing. They won't be doing any of their stuff or sending things out to other labs to corroborate. And one of the things we hope to do over time is have more clinical research and additional ways that people will feel comfortable with our products as well, and how it works with like neurofeedback and how it works with other types of performance metrics. So we're working on all that stuff. It's all coming.
Yeah. Wonderful. Small question that I have before I forget, because we did mention mindfulness a little bit. Something that I'm a big proponent of, obviously, is mindfulness meditation, whatever you want to call that, and TROCOM. Do you know what should I be starting with a quarter of the the amount? Yeah, the troche. Is it something
Yeah.
that you want to do, not necessarily those pathways? Do you want to be as calm as possible? What did you find that
Well, I
helps?
think it depends on your avatar, let's call it, because if you are like a hyper sympathetic drive person, it's very difficult to meditate in that state, right? And so a little bit of trocom can help you take it down a notch, and so that you can have a focused, calm meditation, and but not feel too relaxed that you fall asleep. For example, for me personally, I like to use methylene blue instead, because methylene blue with actually the blue cannatine is a fantastic way to meditate if you want to be, if you have a focused type of meditation practice. Like if you're focused on breath, you're obviously going to be able to focus easier on methylene blue because, or on blue cannatine specifically with the nicotine and caffeine in there, because you're going to be more focused. It's easier to have a focused practice, for example. But if you are somebody that's so high strung and you need to calm down, like a quart of a troche is where I would start for meditation. I have people tell me that they'll do a meditation before they go to bed, and it's an easy way for them to fall asleep that way. So they'll do a meditation with a half of a troche. Most average dosing for most of our users is a one half of a troche at a time. So usually have people start off, depending on what they think their sensitivity is, either with a quarter or a half, and then go up from there. At a biohacking conference, we're going to give you the full thing, like if it's at night or if it's during the day. But because you're so hyperstimulated, you need to calm down, right? But in general, we're going to have you recommend probably about a half of a troche for the most part. Now, for me, like I like a half. I like a half to really kind of calm down if I really need it. But for me, like a quarter of a troche is the way I typically would go to help wind down in the end of the night for me. But I'm a quarter guy. Boomer on our teams, he's a half. Other people are full. So it just depends on, and then we get a lot of reports, but on average, it's about a half of a troche is the usual starting dose for people, and then kind of going up or down depending on what they need from there.
Understood. That's awesome. So, kind of to round things up, because it was such a wonderful conversation. We can go on and like go to 100 different subjects. What is where can people best consume the information that you provide, learn more if they wanted to learn more, and where would be the best place to to get some of the products and try them out?
Oh, yes. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we have at our website, we have troscriptions.com, and you can go and find all our products there. We are also on Instagram at Troscriptions. It's like the word prescriptions, but with a TRO in front of it. Those are the main places you can find our products. I have my own Instagram page, but it's not that relevant to this, but it's at Dr. Scott Sherr. If you want to hear a little bit about me and my clinical practice, health optimization medicine and practice. So that's our nonprofit. You can check out more information there. It's HOMeHOPe.org.
Understood. And as I kind of alluded to, we wholeheartedly believe that a big part of skin health, anti-aging, whatever you want to call it, is that relationship with stress reduction and, if you would, with mitigating some of the consuming effects of stress to the body and to the mind, the way that they consume the reservoirs of youthful energy that our body has, and our skin has. So we have taken upon ourselves, Troscription and Young Goose, to collaborate and kind of provide the opportunity to enjoy, skin benefits and brain benefits kind of together.
Mm-hmm.
So to everyone who's our Prime member, which is basically the group that really has taken the Young Goose journey and committed to
Woohoo.
better skin, they're going to get a sample of Troscription, of the Trocom, in every order that they place for the near future until it runs out. And so they're going to have a chance to play around with the Trocom and experience it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe that this is alone, just using Trocom together with the skincare that you already use, you're going to see incredible benefits.
Yeah, we're really excited, Amite, as well. I think the collaboration is really an exciting one because how synergistic these tools are. So what we'll be providing is a sample of Trocom. It'll be a full troche, which can be broken up into 1/4, as we were discussing before. There'll be a card as to how to use Trocom as well, and the various types of scenarios. And there'll be a QR code for you to scan as well, so you can get more information. And then there'll also be a discount code as well that will be available to you, so you can purchase. And on the other end, we're also going to be collaborating here on the Young Goose side, and we're also going to be giving away some free products of theirs as well with our orders for Trocom as well. So stay tuned for details there. But this is something that we're excited about. We're testing it, and if you guys like it, if it's something that you're really enjoying, please let us know. Let Amite know, or let us know on Instagram, and take pictures of your skin products and your Trocom orange mouth. It's going to make your tongue slightly orange, and that's just part of the fun for us. So doesn't last that long, but it's a combination I think you guys are going to really enjoy. So yeah, we're really excited, Amite. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Scott. This has been an amazing podcast. I feel like we can continue forever here.
Yeah, you and I could talk. We're talkers. I get that. So, but yeah, I hope this was enjoyable and educational. And then please, if anybody has questions, they can reach out at transcriptions.com or on our Instagram, or you can just call Amite directly, and he can answer all your questions if you have his cell phone.
I'll deny that I was even asleep. I'm one of those people. It's like 2 a.m.
Like a good Israeli. Okay.
Exactly. All right, Scott, thank you very much.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.